Hi folks, HR Funk here. Wearing one of my old Firearms instructor shirts today because, ironically enough, I'm going to be talking about firearms instruction, or at very least, firearms instructors. I attended my first firearms instructor training course in the winter of 1992. So that's been a long time ago. Some of you watching this video may not have even been born at that time. Now, prior to attending that course, I had undergone a lot of instruction on the use and handling of firearms in the years leading up to it. After attending that course, I went to many more firearms instructor training courses for various types of firearms, instructor development courses, things like that. And I also went to a lot of other instructor courses where I picked up certifications for instructing things other than firearms. So I've been to a lot of instructor training courses. And also, during that same time, I continued to undergo different types of instruction for all manner of things, firearms among them, but all sorts of other courses as well. And as an instructor, when I attend training, specifically firearms training, but really any type of training, I'm constantly assessing the people who are presenting the information in that training course to see if I can pick up any techniques or methods or anything from the way they are presenting their material that I might be able to incorporate into my own presentation so that I can better convey information to my own students. And over the years, I have had some very good instructors, and I've picked up some great things from them. In fact, I really think the best instructor, and that might not even be the right term for him, maybe I should say the best presenter, who I've ever had the pleasure of attending a course from is Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. And if any of you have ever seen his course, it is just absolutely tremendous. First, the man is brilliant, and he is probably the world's foremost authority on the field of human aggression. And when he presents his material, first, he knows it absolutely thoroughly. And when he presents it, his presentation is dynamic. It is humorous at just the right points. It is thought-provoking at just the right points. His historical references are on point. And the first time I ever attended one of his courses, I thought, this is the person I want to be able to emulate when I'm presenting my own material to my own students. Now, over the years, I've also had some great examples of how not to present information during not only firearms training, but all sorts of other training as well. And I guess I've been thinking about this a lot lately because yesterday I underwent firearms training. Now, fortunately, the organization by which I'm now employed has three very good instructors. They did a great job with yesterday's training, and it was both informative, it was fun, and it was great at improving a lot of our individual skills. But again, not every person that I've ever taken instruction from has quite been to that level. And as I thought about this, I thought of 5 broad categories of instructors whose courses I've sat through that just were not effective in presenting whatever course material they had. And I want to say here, this is not aimed at anyone who has ever presented any material in any course that I've attended. Truthfully, as I go through these different categories, there have been multiple instructors from multiple courses rather, who have taught some or all of that course who have fallen into these categories. So as an instructor, it is incumbent upon us to constantly try to improve the way we present material to our students. So as I'm going through these categories, if you hear anything that might sound familiar in the way you present information, you might want to do a little bit of that self-assessment and see if there's a more effective way that you might be able to present material to your own students. The first hypothetical instructor I'll discuss is what I'll call the reluctant instructor. And most times this individual comes from inside an agency or organization, and he or she is selected or volunteers to become an instructor for some topic, and then after attending training for instructional skills on that topic, comes back to train their peers and coworkers. And this individual is typified by the fact that they are very self-conscious and almost apologetic at standing in front of their peers and presenting whatever information they have. And there's usually very low energy. There's no attempt to take charge, so to speak. So they tend to present their information sort of like this. And, we got to get through this. And, if you guys would, and I know you know a lot of this stuff already, but, if you just, will kind of do, it really degrades from the entire presentation. And the sad part is the individual conducting the training might really have a high level of knowledge of whatever that topic might be, but their lack of confidence, their lack of communication skills, maybe interpersonal skills, really takes away from their ability to convey the knowledge that they have to other people. And I feel bad for this person. Sometimes these people are voluntold that they're going to become an instructor. And by the way, if you're someone who's in charge of selecting individuals to become instructors, the worst thing you can do is force someone to become an instructor because you think that's somehow going to improve them or improve their knowledge or whatever. What you're going to get is someone who doesn't want to be an instructor, they're not going to do a good job as an instructor, and you're going to get the level of instruction and the level of competence in your organization all throughout that comes from that person you selected poorly as an instructor. To that individual who is in the position of being what I'll call the reluctant instructor, if you don't have enthusiasm for the material that you're presenting, no one else is going to have it. If you don't engage the people that are attending your course, they're not going to have any interest in what you're trying to tell them. You have to be able to persuade them as to understanding why the information you're going to present them is valuable to them, that it does something to help improve either their abilities, their skills, their knowledge, or what have you, and it's something that's going to have a tangible benefit for them. In law enforcement training, one of the absolute worst things anyone can ever do, and you see this a lot of times with instruction on some legal topic, whether it's search and seizure, laws of arrest, the elements of criminal law, whatever. And the person will get up in front of the course and they'll go, okay, this is all pretty dry, but we got to get through it. So you read the first paragraph, you read the next paragraph, and it is just almost torture to go through one of those courses. And the sad thing is, a lot of times those legal topics are going to be crucial for an officer to be effective later on in their career, but because of the poor way that it's presented, it has almost no value in the classroom that eventually goes with them out onto the street. So to the reluctant instructor, again, take charge, show some enthusiasm, engage the people in your class, and if you absolutely positively can't do that, it doesn't make you a bad person, but understand that about yourself, and maybe if someone asks you if you want to attend instructor training, decline, or if you're someone that's already in that position, maybe look at trying to select a replacement or have someone above you select a replacement that's going to be able to present that information in a more effective way. Next up is one that personally drives me crazy, and this is the unprepared instructor. This is the person that shows up 5 minutes late for their own class, and when they walk into the classroom, assuming it's in a classroom, they spend the first 45 minutes passing out class materials and hooking up the laptop computer to the projector so they can start their PowerPoint, and then they figure out they don't know how to operate the projector, and they have to call somebody who's not present in order to find out how it is they're supposed to operate the projector. Then they finally figure that out. Then they spend about 20 minutes telling you about what they're going to be telling you about. And then finally, if the class is supposed to start at 8, somewhere around 9-ish, if you're lucky, the instruction actually commences. That personally drives me crazy. I'm the type of instructor that I want to be there well before anyone who's going to be attending my period of instruction. If it's going to be in a classroom, a lot of times I'm there the day before. I've got the projector hooked up, I've got everything figured out, I've gone through my PowerPoint several times, I know my presentation. I know where I'm going to interject an anecdote or where I'm going to try to interject some humor. I've got course materials that are in place at each seat where someone is going to be that I'm going to be instructing. If there are multiple materials, multiple forms or papers or whatever, those are all assembled in a paper folder, and they're in the order that they're going to be needed during the course of instruction. So when the first form is needed, that's the first one they come to, it's on the top. The next one is the next one in order, and so forth and so on. If we're on the range, I want all my targets up. I want everything else that I'm going to be using in place. I want the ammunition there. I want the ammunition labeled if you're going to be using different types of cartridges, so that we don't have people loading 40 Smith & Wesson into a 9mm magazine or vice versa or anything like that. I want everything set. So when the people show up to undergo my instruction, it's all ready to go. And again, the unprepared instructor is the one that just drives me up the wall. If you are that person, you need to put some effort into your course. Know your material, get everything ready, be prepared. And another symptom of the unprepared instructor is that's the person that you ask a question and they really don't even know the material. Now, I will not say that I have been able to answer every single question a student has ever asked me off the top of my head. No, that's not true. But to have a question come to me that I can't answer quickly is relatively rare. And when that does come around, when we take a break during the class, I find the answer to that question so I can answer it when class recommences. So again, that's just another area where instructors really need to again, take some pride in what they're doing, put some energy into it, some effort into it, so that when they present that material to their class, they are absolutely prepared, and the people attending the class are going to be able to come in, sit down, and start to take instruction right away. Next up is the All About Me instructor. This is the polar opposite of the reluctant instructor. This is the person that wants to make sure everyone present on the planet knows that they are the foremost authority on whatever it is they're presenting. And no one in the class, by the way, is ever going to rival their level of knowledge or their proficiency with whatever it is they're doing. And the class really isn't about conveying information to anyone who's present. It's all about giving this person an opportunity to showcase their own skills and abilities and show everyone how superior they are to everyone else who has ever thought about doing whatever it is that the course is structured for. And this person is very, very difficult to take instruction from, because no one present cares about this person's skills, abilities, their credentials, their past accomplishments, their war stories. None of that does anything to improve the people that are there to take instruction. And that's the thing that I really would want to convey to the individual if he or she feels like they fall into this category. Check your ego at the door. You're there to help improve other people, to help raise their level of proficiency or improve their skills or present information and increase their knowledge or whatever. The fact that you are as good as you are or you know the material as well as you do does absolutely nothing for them. You really need to understand that your purpose is to make them better, not to show them how much better you are than them. And a lot of times this individual too has no sense of humor with anything directed at them, because they are so good that anything that might be directed their way or any question that you ask that they can't answer, it's your fault for asking the question that they don't know the answer to. It's not their fault for not having the answer or knowing where to get the answer or whatever. So again, to that individual, you really need to just dial it down a couple of notches, understand what your actual purpose is, and help to present your information and improve the people in your class. The My Way or the Highway instructor. This is the instructor that demands absolute rigid adherence to however they want things to be done. You absolutely have to conform to the way they want it done, when they want it done, how they want it done, and there is no latitude for even any discussion of alternative methods, techniques, equipment, or whatever. It absolutely, positively has to be their way. There is rarely a time when only one answer or one method or one way of going about something is the only way to do it, especially as circumstances start to change in an incident. There could be a myriad of different ways that you might need to approach a similar situation in order to deal with it effectively. But this is the person that's not going to allow even discussion of any of that. It's going to be blinders on, this is it, and that's the only way. A lot of times, this person is masking for a lack of knowledge on their own part. They only know one way to do it, so that's the only way to do it, and that's the only right way to do it. And if someone asks a question or suggests an alternative or anything like that, it is absolutely not even considered. These can be very, very difficult people to deal with because they, particularly if they're in a supervisory or superior position, and you try to say, look, we could do things this way, we could try to approach something from another direction or what have you. Nope, it's going to be just like this. And so often they limit the people that are undergoing their instruction because now the people that have gone through the course only know one way. I would say if you see that in yourself, if you feel like you might fall into that category, take a step back, think about what it is you're trying to accomplish, what your subject material is. Now, certainly there are some times where there's really no room for latitude with something like firearm safety or what have you. You have to maintain absolute safety when you have people on a firing line or people undergoing firearms training. I get that. I'm talking a little bit more about understanding that people are individuals, and sometimes what works really well for you might not work as well for them, or at very least if they have to do it exactly the way you do. If you shoot from an isosceles stance and that's the only one you ever shoot from and you demand everyone else shoots from that, and you have somebody that doesn't shoot well, but maybe they drop one foot back a little bit, maybe they get into some sort of a modified weaver, and now all of a sudden they're putting bullets on target, that's working for them. You're accomplishing with that what you want to, which is firearms proficiency, even though they're not doing it the way you want it done. Now, certainly there's room for fine-tuning if you have someone that maybe is starting to see some success with doing things a little bit differently than you're trying to show, but maybe you need to help them a little bit with recoil control or trigger control or something like that. Certainly, but just recognize that sometimes you may have individuals that are just going to have to do things a little bit differently than you do because maybe their physique is different, their age, their eyesight, whatever is going to be different from yours, so they're going to have to go about things a little bit differently. Well, I've saved the worst and certainly the most detrimental when we're talking about firearms instruction for last. This is what I'll call the drill instructor. This is the person that approaches instruction in a way where they are belittling, demeaning, shouting. They don't praise good performance. There's never performance that's good enough. And it is completely counterproductive to teaching people the skills necessary to proficiently use firearms. Now, there are some people that will claim this is necessary to maintain discipline and order and firearm safety, and I will tell you it is not. When people are undergoing that type of instruction, they don't even care what the subject material is. They don't want to improve. They just want to be done with it and get away from this individual. They will get no really good benefit from that type of instruction. They're not going to improve quickly. They're not going to pick up things in a way that's going to be meaningful for them. And even the United States Marine Corps in boot camp recognizes this, because when recruits go to the rifle range to undergo their initial firearms training, the drill instructors really are removed from that environment, and the recruits are handed off to what are called primary marksmanship instructors, or PMIs. I remember my PMI from boot camp. He was a nice guy, he was smiling, he was cheerful, he was encouraging, talking about all the subject matter of which he was thoroughly versed: sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control, breath control, sight adjustment, all those type of things, reading the wind. He was instructing, he was teaching, he was conveying information, and you absolutely cannot do that by yelling, screaming, shouting, belittling, demeaning, and all that type of thing. Now, people are going to come around, they're going to say, well, if you're in a defensive situation, it's going to be high stress, and you're going to have to be able to deal with that, so we're inducing stress. Okay, well, let's see. The person from the mall just a week or so ago, so far as I know, shot very effectively in a high-stress, chaotic situation. That individual had no law enforcement training, no military training, again, so far as I know, and managed to do very, very well. So don't tell me that you have to use that type of instruction in order to artificially induce stress and indoctrinate whatever the person to that type of environment. It's not true. I learned a long time ago as a firearms instructor that sometimes the best thing for helping people develop their skills is for me to be a cheerleader. Now, no, I don't put on the dress and the skirt and all that, but sometimes just, seeing a little bit of success and praising that, maybe it wasn't a great shot, but maybe it was better than the last shot. So good job. You're getting that over there a little bit more. What did you do different that time? Well, whatever. I pressed the trigger and I didn't see the front sight drop, or whatever. Good. Okay, let's try that again. Let's do something else. You've got to be positive. You've got to reinforce that and help these people learn to shoot. It's a psychomotor skill. It takes coordination. It takes practice. And you've got to make that an enjoyable experience. The more fun it is, the more likely people are going to want to continue doing it, even after your course of instruction, which is good. We want them to continue working with their firearms. We don't want them to leave the range and go, man, I'm never going to do that again. From a personal perspective, there are a couple of things I did as a firearms instructor that were very, very successful. One of them was I was trying to come up with a way to raise the level of proficiency with my officers, and I reinstituted a firearms proficiency award program. So when officers shot to a certain level, they got to wear a firearms expert badge. Now, they had to keep shooting at that level or they would lose that expert badge. So here's what would happen, and here's where peer pressure played into it. Somebody would shoot on a particular course and they would shoot an expert score. So they would get to wear their firearms expert badge. So they'd be razzing their buddy that didn't shoot expert. Hi, who's the expert now? And for however long it took until the next time we shot a course for qualification, they would be able to razz their buddy and they would have bragging rights and all that. Now, the next time around, if they didn't shoot an expert score and their buddy did, guess who had the bragging rights and got to rub it in for however long till the next time we got around to shooting that again. So there was that built-in peer pressure. It was fun. Now, there is this thing in law enforcement where people say, well, if you do that and you have somebody involved in a shooting, then somehow you're going to incur a liability because the plaintiff's attorney will say, well, if you were that good and you shot expert, why didn't you shoot the gun out of their hand, or some other ridiculous nonsense like that? To all of you who think that, show me the case. Show me the case that turned on just the fact that this person had an expert shooting rating and some other officer did not. I don't think you're going to be able to find it because it's not out there. Now, don't tell me that there was somebody that shot expert who then did something in an actual encounter that wasn't proper, and that's why they were held liable. Show me the case where it turned on the fact that they were rated as an expert shooter, and it doesn't exist. Now, sorry, get off my soapbox. There is another thing that I did, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the fun aspect. Again, I was looking at a way to improve the shooting of my officers. And this was back maybe 10 years ago when the whole zombie thing was really getting up and running. I put together, and this was on time out, this was not mandatory training, it was nothing else, a zombie shoot. And at the zombie shoot, we were going to make sort of a day out of it. I was going to have hot dogs out there and, you know, soft drinks and things like that. And I had some sort of awards that wasn't much. It was like, you know, earmuff hearing protectors or something like that. So I put out the word we were going to have a zombie shoot. And I even took donations, as I think about it. That's the way I got the things from the businesses. You know, I had people throw, I was using an ammo can for people to throw donations. I had money in that thing. There were guys going out buying guns to be able to, because I didn't restrict it to just duty weapons. I didn't care what they were shooting. I just wanted them to shoot. People going out buying guns, shooting on their own time, getting ready for the zombie shoot. So I actually did that for a couple of years in a row. It was a lot of fun. It was a big success. And I'm not sure if that's still being done at my former department, but I know the Firearms Award program still exists in virtually the same form today as it did back when I was still there. Well, folks, there you go. That's my thoughts on how not to suck as a firearms instructor. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off anything you purchase from Optics Planet. Also remember the new discount code from Hot Munitions. If you go to Hot Munitions, you can use my discount code there, which is HRFUNK10, and that'll save you 10% off your purchase from Hot Munitions. See you next time, folks. And until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.